Hello everybody and welcome to another video in our How to Win Arkham series, where today we're going to be talking about deck building and understanding deck building. When you first start this game, you're probably super overwhelmed when you see all of the cards before you and you don't know what to put in, and then you play the decks that Fantasy Flight Games recommend in the rule book and you're like, this isn't doing enough. I want to do more. I want to feel stronger. This video will help you how you approach your deck and how you actually will make a deck that is strong enough to win the game. One thing to say as well, there's lots of ways to build a deck. This isn't like the only way to build a deck. This is just one way that we approach when it comes to how you want to construct a deck and how you want to look at it and how you just want to make sure you're making the right decisions. This video is going to be a bit daunting because we're going to break down a Daisy Walker deck after we get through our little guide of how we approach it. And you guys will get a little bit of insight into this. We're not going to be, each investigator also approaches it differently. We have a playlist where we cover new player guides for every investigator. We're missing only 2 at this point of the fully released cycles. So that playlist is linked down below if you want specific guidance on an actual individual investigator. But anyway, let's get going with the first, sorry, my voice is crazy, with the first question that you want to ask yourself, which is, what does your deck want to do? Why don't you guys take this while I hydrate and fix my voice?
Good choice. Yeah, Bryn, you want to do this one first?
Sure. So, in general, when you're building a deck, you got to sit down and figure out what kind of useful thing do you intend to do. And those things are, you can get clues. You need to get clues to win the game. You can fight monsters. If the monsters don't die, they might kill you. But and that's not winning. Bit of both. It's generally better to be specialized at one than the other, but if you are playing with a higher player count, sometimes you want to fill in whichever one needs to be done this turn.
Sometimes your investigators also just like lend themselves to both, depending on who you're playing. Like if you're playing Ash Can Pete with Duke, like you just kind of do both.
Yeah. And our last one on the list here is support your fellow investigators, and that is putting cards in your deck that will help other investigators play the game better.
Yeah. Do
their thing better.
One thing of note, if you do want to support fellow investigators, you're still going to want to be able to get clues or fight monsters. Because if a player isn't contributing to the game at all in those two things, how the game pushes back, you're probably going to fall behind. So you're going to want to be able to at least get clues or fight monsters if you also are a support class. So up next, we got what your deck will need. So you're going to need cards that accomplish your goal. So if your goal is fight monsters, you're going to need cards that help you fight monsters. This is weapons and other things. If your goal is to get clues, well, we're going to be talking about Daisy Walker in detail very soon, so you'll see what those are. You're also going to want cards that protect you from the game. The game is going to fight back against you, and you're going to want to make sure that you don't just fall victim to it every time. So cards that protect you from those effects are very helpful. You're going to want cards that synergize with your investigator. Once again, every investigator is very unique, and there's tons of cards in their card pool that are made for them, so to speak. You'll hear us say that in a lot of our other videos, how with Preston Fairmont, when he was released, all the money cards were made for Preston. Or like with Patrice, a lot of cards in her cycle were made for Patrice. So you're going to want to have some cards that synergize with them, and you're also going to want cards for your economy, both in resources and in cards. You're going to want cards that replace, like cards that give you more cards and cards that give you resources, so you don't fall behind on either of those. Any other thoughts you guys want to add?
No, I want to talk about the pyramid.
All right, let's get to the pyramid. The deck fundamental pyramid. Travis, go for it.
Yeah. So at the bottom, we have our purpose. Our purpose is not an actual card, unless you want to kind of count your investigator's card in it, I guess. But the purpose is that idea of what you want to do. You can't build a deck unless you know what you want your deck to do. And that's the absolute base of it. The second tier of our pyramid is the economy. this is the second most important thing, and the most important part of the pyramid, actual card-wise, where it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, and it doesn't matter how good your character is at doing it. If you can't pay for the cards that let you do it, or draw the cards that let you do it, you don't get to play the game. Your deck's just not good. Next, we have function. These are the cards that let your deck fulfill its purpose. These are the cards that let you get clues good, magnifying glass deduction. They're the cards that let you kill monsters good. Things like Vicious Blow and the 45 automatic. These are the cards that let you play the game and fulfill your intended role in the team. And then last, at the very tippy top, we got fun. This is your junk food of your deck. You can't have too much of it, because if you base your entire meal on it, it's not. Your teeth are gonna rot, and you're gonna die young.
You'll get stomach aches, and those aren't fun.
Yeah, this is like your fun, or these are like cards that you just want to put in because they're cool, or the cards that like specifically pertain to your investigator's like theme. This is where I would fit in some of the tomes for Daisy, as we're gonna discuss later.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of bleed for sure between fun and function.
Yeah. With this pyramid, like, it's not like we're saying that like 66% of your deck needs to be boring, right? Because in essence, drawing cards is fun because it gives you more things. But for the cards that like don't do anything except like are big and splashy, and like if all of your deck are big splashy cards that are really expensive and hard to find, you're not going to be able to play them without the function and the economy as well to go with them.
Actually, a really good example of this is our like garbage deck live deck building videos that we've been doing, where we try to build around something that's like subpar. And you'll notice that while we take an idea or a card that is like not particularly good, we always build a base around it of good cards that allow us to play it.
Yeah.
Like, you can play bad cards or like silly ideas or whatever, but if you want to like do good in the game, then you need to have good cards to support it.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how trashy the top of your pyramid is if the rest of it is built good.
Yeah. Because those good cards will still just help you win if your function is there.
Yeah, you could build a big pyramid, and as long as like the top of it could be made out of like cotton candy for all people care, if the rest of it's built out of like nice hard limestone and played with gold, people will be like, yeah, that's a nice pyramid. And you're like, yeah, thanks.
There are some other questions you need to ask yourself when you're building your deck. How much does your deck cost? So this is a big thing, as we were talking about. If you have a lot of expensive cards in your deck, you're going to want to make sure you have the resource production to play those cards. Arkham Horror is a bit different from other card games. You might hear something called a curve. While a curve is still relevant in a game like this, it's more so like what is like your top end, like what are your expensive cards that you need to play. Because while cards that cost 1, you can always play because you're always going to get 1 resource, assuming the game hasn't messed you up in some way by some sort of rule that it imposes at times. You can play a lot of cards that cost 1, but it's very hard. It's much harder to get a card that costs 5, assuming you're just getting 1 resource a turn. So you're going to want to ask how much does your deck cost, because the more expensive your deck is, like one that Bryn plays with lots of assets, he has a lot of resource production, while me, where I play my Dark Horse decks, I don't care about my deck's cost. So it is very relevant when you're building your deck.
Something to elaborate on that is that kind of focuses, or that kind of speaks to what kind of economy your deck needs. Mm-hmm. And that it's like a little bit of a slider, where the more expensive the cards in your deck are, if you're playing cards like high impact expensive cards like Noptic Manuscripts, like Agency Backup, like Flamethrower or whatever, card selection is more important to be able to find those cards specifically, as well as resource generation is more important to be able to play them, because you don't need to play quite as many cards. You just need to play your high impact ones, and they'll carry the game for you. Whereas your deck has more low cost cards, then all of a sudden card draw becomes much more important. Should be the kind of economy you're focusing on, because if you're putting your experience into low cost cards, then you don't need a ton of resources to play them, but you get with card draw, then you get to play more of them.
Yeah, and it might sound a bit obvious to people who've played this game a lot, but like, say for example, you're playing a Dark Horse red deck, which you don't want to have resources to get the full benefit from. Even though while emergency cash was good in other decks, you don't want to put it in something with Dark Horse. It's kind of just, it goes against what your deck wants to do. So then what do you want your deck to look like? It kind of also goes into that point as well, right? So like with the what you want your deck to look like, it's kind of just like, what is your goal of your deck? Like, what do you want to be doing and how do you want to be doing it as soon as possible?
Yeah, what you want your deck to look like is also partially, it goes into like what upgrade path you're going to take. Is like, what do you want your deck to do about scenario 4 or 5-ish is when you should have enough experience for it to be functioning properly.
Well,
right? Like you're not going to play the entire game with 45 on max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when you want your upgrade path to be like pretty much done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like obviously you want your deck to be functioning from scenario 1, but like we want our upgrade path to be done.
Yeah.
By
and
about
like
scenario 4 or 5.
So then I like what Travis was saying with the upgrade path you're going to take, you're going to want to replace those 45 automatics with a better weapon by that point. So you're going to want to have this kind of in your head as you are playing, like as you are building your deck the first time. You're going to see us also talk in the previous videos a lot as well, how this card's just a placeholder. Sometimes you just got to put a card that is a little bit like, you're just going to put that card in your deck to hold a spot for something better in the future. Like that comes up quite often. Less often when you have more cards, but...
Yeah, like even sometimes because I'm stupid, I'll play like... You'll see Brynner I play, like, for example, Switchblade level 0, even though it's a garbage card, just so we don't forget to upgrade that card to level 2, or so we don't have to think about which card to cut later.
Yeah, because then every time I draw it, it's going to remind me.
Yeah. You're like,
Make this better.
Can't wait till this is better.
Yeah.
And then, while you're upgrading, does this upgrade path compromise your economy? Do you start with a deck with a lot of low-cost cards, but you add the Panoptic Manuscripts? Maybe you should have a plan for how to get how to get that card in play, how to not only find it, but also resolve it with its resource cost from the beginning of your deck building plan as well. Because it's a lot less expensive experience-wise to have all your level 0 cards in your deck at the start of the campaign than have to be like, do I really need to add more of this to get my card, right? So just make sure you do it at the beginning. Have your plan. If it's going to change your economy from your starting deck, be aware of that and plan for that. Or upgrade the cards that give you more economy as well, which we were going to get to on the Daisy deck construction thing that we're about to do next.
Economy is like super boring, and we're talking about a lot because it is very important. It's like doing your scales when you're learning piano, or doing drills when you're learning to play hockey or soccer or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can spend a turn gaining 3 resources for your 3 actions and then getting 1 at the end of the turn to play your fingerprint kit or your 45 on Mac. But like, you can only do that. Like, you can realistically only afford to, just throw away a turn like that once, maybe twice in a scenario. Like, it's just not realistic.
And if you want
you're gonna lose if you do that too often.
There will be a playlist. It should be it might be on the side of the video, it might be below the video, but it's definitely at this end of this video. So you should stay tuned and watch the end for when the cards come up, because we have a playlist for all of our How to Win series where we talk about both tempo and value, which are relevant to those 2 things as well. The economy is like those 2 things as well. So like when you're have good economy, your tempo is going to be ahead of the game, and you're making more value out of it, which is a super good time.
Yeah, there's a reason we did those videos first.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about Daisy Walker. What does your deck want to do? You want to get clues and play tomes.
Well, slow down. You missed the entire first question of, like, who do you want to play?
Well, I want to play Daisy Walker because she has 5 book and I want to get clues.
But that's the first step to building a deck is, like, what investigator am I going to play, you know?
Mm-hmm. How do you guys, how do you approach that question? How do we all approach that question?
Well,
it depends. Like, when we're playing a campaign, I ask you guys if you have anyone in particular you want to play first, and then if you guys say no, then I just pick whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually wait until the end. when everybody else has picked their guy, and then pick a guy that I feel like bolsters the weak points of our team the best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
one
Justin's
of those.
kind of, he has a general idea of what he wants to play, but he's rarely on someone specific.
Justin will play a red guy, and he'll make the red guy do whatever we need it to do.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but if you're looking at it just like this, to go back to the question, the most important question, what investigator do you want to play? You're going to learn quickly as you play this game what you like doing. I think this game is fun enough that I have fun in any role I can play because I've played every role and I enjoy them all. But you're going to have your favorites. On Thursday, on the 24th, we released an archetype video, which is a list video on our list series, which you should also check out because we talk a bit more about what we like to play. But when you learn what you like to play, it'll be very helpful for you to determine what investigators you like and how you want to build. But for today, you are forced to play Daisy Walker. Daisy Walker she's powerful and very good for new players as well. I think she is like the best new player investigator, at least easily in the core set for me, but also like pretty good throughout the majority of it. She has a good flavor, a very strong ability, and she has 5 book, so you know what you're going to be doing and you can do it well.
Yeah, I think Agnes is like a bit better for more experienced players, maybe. Mm-hmm. At least on the monster fighting side of things. The game wants you to play like Roland Banks and Wendy Adams, but Wendy using a high foot score to your advantage is like a little bit abstract for new players.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of work to make that useful.
Yeah.
And for Roland Banks, like he seems pretty easy. Like you get to play the class that's good at killing stuff. You get to play the class that's good at getting clues. That's all you need, right? Mm-hmm. But Roland Banks, you actually need you gotta work a bit for him to be actually good.
Well, Daisy, she just goes. But let's dive in and start looking at everything. So the first thing we want to talk about is cards that get clues. Travis, I'll let you take the lead on these slides, so you can go for it. So before I hand you the ball, though, I'm going to just say, so these slides that are coming up here, these are not all the cards you put in your deck. We're going to be breaking these cards down, the pros and cons, looking at Daisy Walker and what we're going to be doing with them. So, because as you can see, you can't really put Whitting Green and Dr. Milan at the same time easily.
We're going to look at our options, and then at the end, we're going to tell you what cards we picked and why.
Yeah.
So initially, we got cards. We want cards that make our book better. It doesn't need to be that much better, we got 5 already, but like a little boost is always welcome. We have 2 cards for our ally slots. First off, we got Whitting Green, who also has a nice little tome synergy. She only gives you the +1 book if you have a tome. But
she also helps you find them.
Yeah, also if you're playing Daisy, you don't have a tome, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Actually, though, you need, as Daisy, you always want to have a tome and play with an action ability on it, so that way you're not wasting, if you're playing an investigator and the text box part, the ability of your investigator is blank, you're playing them wrong. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you just playing a different investigator?
Yeah.
So that's important. Dr. Milan, he gives us the +1 book all the time. And he also supplements our resource economy, which can be pretty important in yellow. Some of your high-powered cards cost a fair bit of money, and you actually have surprisingly limited options for getting resources. Next, we have a handful of purple cards. We got Drawn to the Flame. Just gets you 2 clues for free. We have Deduction next. This one gives you a book for 1 test, and if you succeed, you get an extra clue. So you're basically trading a card in your hand for a clue. Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Then we have Drawn to the Flame, gets you 2 clues for no test. But you draw the top card in counter deck. This one, generally better for investigators who struggle with investigation a little bit more. High Shroud isn't going to be such a huge issue when we have 5 book and we're playing cards to bump it up to 6, 7, 8 if we need to.
Yeah.
Next, we have Read the Signs. This one's kind of a combination of some of our earlier yellow cards, where it's going to supplement our book score with our brain score, and together for a nice 8. And when we succeed, we get 2 clues. It's got another ability, but that one isn't why you play this card. So it's kind of a combination of deduction and another one of our book boosting cards. Then we have St. Hubert's Key. This one takes up your necklace slot, which is going to be something to keep in mind as we get into later options. and it boosts your brain score and your book score. The book score is the important one, and then the brain score could be relevant depending on what other cards we choose to play.
Mm-hmm.
For example, it gives us basically +2 when we're playing Read the Signs. Or if we choose to play other spells, like if we decide that dealing with monsters or evasion is something we want to do, it'll make our Mists of Rayleigh or Shriveling Bear.
It also kind of does help. It also kind of does help as well with that idea of like cards that help you protect you against the game. Having +1 brain will make certain Mythos cards a little bit easier to handle as well.
That is another good point. It also gives you -2 sanity as like a quote-unquote downside, which like probably 50% of the time I play this card isn't actually a downside, but that's a story for another video. Like as Daisy, you have 9 brain already. Like who cares if you have 2 less?
Yeah.
If you're taking 7, you got other problems.
Yeah.
And lastly, here we got Perception, just a nice, easy +2 book. Again, helps us get over that hump for like higher shroud locations. Helps us make our deductions more secure. Could like, if 8's not good enough, can make you read the signs better. And then it replaces itself, which makes it also basically an economy card.
Yeah.
Next up, there are the Tome Cards, which, as Travis was saying, if you're not using Daisy's ability every turn, this and it's true for all investigators. If you're not using their text box to your advantage, you're not really like playing that investigator. So with these Tome Cards, they are a crucial part of these decks. Travis, I'll let you go further and break these guys down a bit.
Okay. First off, we have our Dream Diary, which is one of them untranslated. You upgrade later. If we decide to play Dream Diary, then we need to incorporate upgrading it and achieving its little thing as part of our plan, because it's pretty... I mean, it's like fine without it, but it gets really good if we do it. Mm-hmm. And if we're not using it, there are better options for our deck. So as an action, you can add Essence the Dream, which is basically Unexpected Courage. It's a skill that commits for 2 wild symbols to your hand, which gain that for free every turn is pretty nice, as we'll see later. And then you have to succeed by 3 or more during a skill test to which Essence of the Dream is committed, which should not be too difficult with Daisy's 5 book. Next up, we have Encyclopedia. This one's actually a little bit better than I initially gave it credit for, I think. It's got 5 secrets compared to the upgraded version that comes in the core set. This version is from the Harvey Walters starter deck. And then, as an action, you exhaust it, spend a secret. You choose another investigator location. They get +2 to all their skill checks for a skill of your choice until the end of the phase, which is like nice.
Yeah, you also can choose yourself. You can choose yourself as well.
Yeah, you can choose yourself,
yeah.
But it's generally, I guess you do get the free action, which makes it actually good. So you can pick yourself and just have 7 book for the rest of the turn. You can pick one your fighter and have him have +2 punch for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
It's a nice support card. It's good. Lastly, we have the Old Book of Lore. This is the core set classic. This provides not just card economy for you, but also supplements your teammates' card economy. That's something else to potentially think about if you're playing with a group, is that if you're playing cards that help other people get things, they can just take it for granted and build their own decks independent of you, of course, but you can all kind of supplement each other's builds and support each other a little bit. Most colors have some kind of option for that, and this is one of yellow's, where they're really good at letting other players find the cards they need, or just find cards in general.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, to looking at other things that you want your deck to function, cards that protect you from the game. The game's going to be fighting back, and this helps you beat them. Logical reasoning. If you have a clue, you can choose an investigator to heal 2 horror or discard a terror card. It's going to be very easy for you as Daisy to have a clue. And being able to remove horror or remove a card is very powerful for making sure you're staying ahead of the game. It also commits for 2 brain, which, like Guts, the card next to it, is super helpful for beating cards that come out of the Mythos deck. It replaces itself just like Perception does, which is nice in terms of the fact that like the card is just now a new card after you didn't fail a test from the Mythos deck, so that's kind of sweet. Inquiring Mind, commit only if there's a clue on your location, which as the clue getter is pretty easy to find. And then you got 3 wild symbols, which is super powerful. I find Inquiring Mind is also I'm going to put my own opinion on this. Is also a great card that you can remove later. Well, it's an easy card to like just take out and put in a more powerful upgrade later in the game. That's what I find anyway. That works really well for Inquiring Mind. Sorry?
I support that.
Then there's Deny Existence, which you get to say no to the game. It tells you to discard cards, lose resources, lose actions, damage, or horror, and you just say no. And then Ward of Protection, which is like the ultimate protection, which cancels a non-weakness treachery card if it has a revelation effect. You can cancel that revelation effect. Then you take 1 horror, which, as we said with Daisy, she has a literal boatload of horror damage on her. So that's not really a problem.
Yeah. You still must resolve any other effects on the card that are not its revelation effect.
Like Surge.
Yeah, mostly Surge.
Yeah.
But still, you just get to dodge the dangerous part.
Actually, 10 out of 10 card. Might be my most played card of the game.
Oh, yeah. Then we got cards that are here for your resource economy. Who wants to take these ones?
Bryn can do it. There's all these yellow cards you don't play, Bryn.
Yeah. So we've got logical reasoning, which is your hit points. Your hit points are a resource, though.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
So managing the amount of damage on you is technically economy. Yeah. I was going for that one first because I understood it the least. We got Dr. Milan Christopher, so we get a resource every time we successfully investigate. We're here to get clues. That's what we're here for. We're here to get clues and chew bubblegum, and we just ran out of bubblegum.
On this note for Dr. Milan, as a new player, you might have heard something called the taboo list. Dr. Milan has been tabooed, but we recommend for your first few games, just ignore the taboo list and play with the cards as is.
Yeah. So anyway, it turns into like a lot of resources.
Yeah.
You probably want to be investigating about 2 and a bit times every turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of resources. It's a lot of actions you don't have to spend getting resources.
Yeah.
Burning the Midnight Oil is just 0, get 2 resources. Or investigate, get 2 resources. So it's like if it's like a sort of a one-shot Dr. Milan.
Mm-hmm.
Although we can use it with Dr. Milan to get 3 resources. So it's like we get emergency cash, but it didn't cost us an action.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Crack the Case is very similar to that, where it's fast. We can play it when the last clue is discovered from our location.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to distribute resources among the investigators at that location equal to the location's shroud.
Yeah.
So this is like an emergency cache again that doesn't really cost us actions or any of our tempo, but we can also use it to help out our other investigators. Like if somebody else is struggling they can't find their economy pieces, we can fix that with this card. We've got the Shocked Rabbi. We'll never call that card something else. Yeah, so this one it's a research. So when we're searching our deck, if it's among the cards that we found, we can reveal it and either add a secret to one of our cards, like the tomes that we saw earlier. Some of them use secrets. Or we can gain 2 resources. Again, just cheap and easy way to gain resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got emergency cash, which is sort of like the baseline for this effect. Like if our effect to gain us more resources is not better than emergency cash, just 0, 1 action, gain 3, we probably shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah. Up next, we got cards that generate cards. The cards for your card economy. Travis, why don't you know what? You're actually going to take the next one because there's some cards I've never played on that one, so you can take this. So Dream Diary, as we said before, it gives you a card every turn for free with the tome action. Basically an Unexpected Courage, 2 wild symbols. That's like awesome card generation that you can activate each turn for free with Daisy's ability. Old Book of Lore is like Chef's Kiss for Daisy. She can just look at the top 3 cards of her deck, or an investigator her location can look at their top 3 cards and just choose a card and put into their hand. Especially good with the Shocked Rabbi or Astounding Revelation. Win in Green, she helps you find your tomes by searching the top 6 cards of your deck. Practice makes a tome or relic if you were doing that, but we're looking at specifically Daisy, so tomes are what is matters here. Then there's Practice Makes Perfect, which is a bonkers card that lets you get a practice skill like deduction, commit it to a test, get an extra clue, and then that deduction goes back into your hand instead of being discarded. So the amount of just cards that Practice Makes Perfects can generate is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or if you find a perception,
Yep.
get to commit the perception to the test, draw a card, and then add the perception to your hand to draw another card.
Yeah, it's just Practice Makes Perfect is really good. It's just really good. Then we got Eureka, which it's kind of like a one-use old book of lore if the test is successful, and because it commits for a book and a brain, which are two really good stats for Daisy, it's pretty easy to make those work and then find a card. And now we get to go to that fun and flavor part of this. So Travis, why don't you take these guys?
Yeah, okay. So first off, we got the research library, and this is here because Daisy cares about tomes, and this man finds you a tome. He also has the Miskatonic trait, which is a surprise tool that'll help us later. But right now, you care about he'll take a heart damage, which is in short supply, and a brain damage, which, like, he can take addition to the heart, hopefully at the same time for maximum efficiency. But he's here to find you. He's extra copies of your good tomes. And a lot of the good tomes cost a lot of experience, and one of them you can even only play one copy of. So this guy's going to be he's like playing extra copies of those good tomes.
Yeah.
When you're looking for a tome, this man is he's like a zero experience version of No Stone Unturned level 5.
Yes, yeah. It's
you whatever you want.
What I said earlier in the video, how some cards are made for investigators, Research Librarian is made for Daisy. Like, other investigators can use him, but you want... Mm-hmm. He is two very important cards in your deck.
Yeah. Daisy's weakness is even a tome. So you can find that too, but then he's being kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
I wrote the Necronomicon you wanted, boss, and you're like, oh.
Not that one! You fool!
Next up, we got Enraptured. This is a card that I don't think I've seen anyone else in our group play.
I'm playing it right now in my Mandy deck, actually.
Really? Okay, good.
Yeah.
It commits for a book, which is weird for a purple card, and if it's successful during investigation, which it should be, because the book gives you 6 books, not hard, you get to put charge on or secret on an asset you control. And some of the not even some, but most of the good tomes love their charges and or secrets. There's also another card that I believe is included in the final build that uses charges. It might be nice to have an extra use of that, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Next up, we got the Occult Lexicon. This is a really good level 1 tome, or level 0 tome. So when it comes to play, you search your bonded cards for 3 copies of Bloodright. Bloodright is a 0-cost event that allows you to draw 2 cards and then discard up to 2 cards, and then for each card you discarded, you may either gain 1 resource or spend 1 resource to deal 1 damage to an enemy at a location, and playing it does not cause attacks of opportunity. I kind of hate this card because I have a really hard time justifying not playing it in any of my yellow decks that can, because Bloodright is so good. But also it's limit 1 per deck, so you can't ever count on drawing it. It's just kind of there. And it's just...
Unless you got some research librarians.
Yeah. Bring me the book that bleeds all the time. And you just
found
okay,
that
boss.
blood book for you, boss.
Lastly, we got the Arcane Enlightenment asset. This one's another friendly face from the new yellow Investigator starter deck. Gives you an extra hand size, which is kind of nice. Commits for 2 brains. Extra guts are never something that we don't want to see. Takes up an arcane slot, which might be an issue in some Daisy decks because she can play purple cards. But here we're probably not looking at that so much because we want to focus on our 5 book and getting the most out of that. And then gives you an additional hand slot, which can only be used to hold a tome asset, but that's good because that's all we want to hold.
That's all we want.
Tome assets.
Yeah. And then the last thing we got before we get to our upgrades, which are cards that are just good. Shortcut. It's just good. You get a free move.
Every yellow deck I make has 2 shortcuts. Is like literally one of the first cards I put in, and then we get to the end, and I'm like, shortcut still deserves its place.
Yep.
Almost every time.
Yeah, sometimes I don't play shortcut in my decks, but don't tell Travis. It's mostly just because it'll exasperate him when I never have one.
Bring you shortcut. I mean, you're just like, I didn't draw that. Sorry.
I don't have one. Yeah.
Like, this card's actually insane, though. Like, it's got 2 relevant subtypes even. Every part of this card is good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or traits. Sorry.
All right. Let's get on over to the upgrades. So what upgrades do we want? Travis, when we were making this together, he brought up that you want to look at upgrades in 2 categories. So Travis, I'll let you talk about where you look at those categories for when you're upgrading your deck.
Okay, so there's a general rule. We have sort of like core and extra upgrades, and this we've labeled build arounds because that's kind of what they are for the most part. They tend to be higher experience. They tend to be support more niche themes, or they're cards that you want to make your deck around finding and playing. First off, we've got Abigail Foreman here. She is basically like Daisy 2.0. She carries a book around for you and lets you use one of its action things without spending an action. Or no, she gets to use it again. That's right.
Yeah.
Also, Miskatonic, which could be relevant for the next card, but costs 4 experience, expensive, but just like.
Can you imagine using her with the encyclopedia?
Oh, +4.
So
You just pick somebody and you're like, +4 to your thing, and they're like, I can't investigate good, and you're like, no, look, check out the diagrams. This is how you investigate.
Yeah.
They're like, I only have 1 book, and you're like, no, you don't. You go 5. Get in there. Next up, we have the Miskatonic Archaeology funding, whatever. It's permanent, limit 1 per deck. You get 2 additional ally slots, which can only be used for Miskatonic. And if you'll notice, Abigail is Miskatonic, Research Librarian is Miskatonic, Dr. Milan Christopher is Miskatonic, and Witten Green, all Miskatonic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 2 charismas for the cost of 1 and a bit.
Yeah,
The downside.
It does. Sorry, go.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was going to say the same thing you're going to say, probably.
Oh, okay. The downside is that when you take damage, you can only put 1 of it at most among each of your allies, but that's easy if you just don't take damage.
Yeah. Plus, all the Miskatonic allies in the game can only kind of take 1 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They're pretty squishy.
Yeah, they're scholars and stuff. Anyway, Next up we got our level 3 Book of Lore. We are determined. We're kind of determined like it's probably the one we want to be using the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably got the strong Encyclopedia is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but like having anyone at your location get an extra card every turn is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And also this ability where you can use one of the secrets. I think it has
secrets. Yeah,
there's secrets.
Yeah, I can never remember if they have secrets or charges, but to let them play it like now without spending action at reduced cost is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this card itself costs less money to play. Next up, we have the Big Daddy. We have Noptic Manuscripts. This is like the tome, other than one that's in the Harvey Walter Star deck, which I didn't include in here because it's boring and it costs like 8 experience now. I don't want to build around it. It's too easy. This one's like, it basically lets people at your location do things without drawing the chit.
Yeah, which is awesome.
It is awesome. Next, we have Knowledge is Power. This one is here, again, to support the tome theme. And it's in this section because it's been tabooed to cost 2 experience. Which is still fine, still worth buying. But it lets you use one of the abilities on a tome in play or in your hand without you're trading the Knowledge is Power as opposed to any other costs for that ability.
Yeah.
And then if it's on a tome in your hand, I think you can discard to draw a card or something if you don't have money to play it, which is pretty nice. It's just a really nice supporting card. And then lastly, we have the Archaic Glyphs Guiding Stones is what it's called.
Yeah, subtype, Guiding Stones.
Yeah, if you had the camera on me, you get to see me squinting at my screen a lot for these.
Yeah, they get like a small version of what I'm seeing. I have like it here and then also over there on this monitor, so like I'm spoiled.
You are. This one has 3 charges. and actually you can spend a charge to investigate. And for each 2 points you succeed by, you get an additional clue. So you're Rex Murphy, but like super Rex with this one.
Yeah.
This card can enable you to. It does a couple of things where on low shroud locations it just saves you actions.
Yeah.
And on high shroud locations, it really saves you not just actions but resources as well. Where it's easier to just, if there's a location that has 6 shroud and 3 clues on it, it's a lot easier to just pump your book up to 12 or whatever for one test than try to succeed like 8 to 6 3 times. Especially if you have an optic manuscript in play and you just don't have to draw the chit.
Yes, sir.
Look at that.
And you just get the clues.
Yep. The next one is like the extra, the good stuff. Just the good cards that you probably want to look at upgrading after you got your core build around stuff for your upgrades. Level 2 deduction, super sweet. It's regular deduction, but it gives you the 2 books if you need to succeed by 2 or more with its new clause, which gives you 2 additional clues instead. That's pretty rad. Truth from Fiction allows you to place 2 secrets along assets controlled by investigators at your location. 3 secrets instead if you're on a location with a clue, which, as I said earlier, with Inquiring Mind, is pretty easy to do when you're a clue getter. It also commits for 3 books, which is very helpful. The Eye of Truth is a sick card that allows you to commit for 4 wild for a Mythos card. And then if it's successful, you remove that card from the game with Eye of Truth attached to it. And when anyone tests that card again, they get that Eye of Truth as if it was committed to that test, which is juicy.
Pretty wild. The game's like, do this bad thing, and you're like, Illuminati says no.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to point out about the Eye of Truth is also relevant for deduction level 2 is they are both practiced, which if you play yellow characters very quickly becomes the most important trait.
Yeah. It used to be Insight, but now it's or was that whatever one? Eidetic Memory. Yeah. Dream Diary. So if you want to upgrade your Dream Diaries, they have a bunch of options you can choose that gives it 4 wild symbols as opposed to just 2, which is pretty awesome. And now you get it for free. You don't even need to spend your free tome action on it. I chose for this slide having 8 cards in hand to have it get 4 because it's pretty easy to do that with Daisy. She has so much cards in here if we do go that route, which we're going to see our finished decks on the next slide anyway.
Yeah, the secret part of that is that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all good.
Encyclopedia level 2, it now doesn't cost secrets to do it, so you can do it forever and ever and ever. Ward of Protection level 2 can now be played on any player in the game. So if I am playing and Bryn draws an Ancient Evils, I could or could not play the Ward of Protection if I had one in my hand to stop it. Then there's Upgraded Wit and Green, and I actually don't know what she does. It looks like she does 9 cards instead.
Yeah, Upgraded Wit and Green. So like the difference between her and level 0 Wit and Green is that if you control a relic or a tome, she gives you plus a brain and plus a book.
Nice.
Instead of just plus a book. And her reaction effect searches the top 9 cards instead.
Yeah.
And I believe she has an extra horror, so
cool.
She does have extra
I could be wrong about that.
She does. She's 2/2 on the other one.
Sweet.
I think she might have a brain symbol on the side as well.
Yeah, she might.
I'll go check while you guys, mainly Travis, because he built this deck. Because we have here our deck for Daisy Walker with all this in mind. We have our starting deck and then our upgraded deck. Travis, go
One
for
thing
it.
I want to touch on before we go into these deck lists is the cards we listed are not an exhaustive list of the cards you can play in Daisy, of course. There's lots of purple combat options that you could play. If you decide that you want to go a more split route, there's you could really go all in on the putting secrets on your copy of the Necronomicon or whatever, not her weakness, the good one, and like just let that carry you to victory.
Yeah.
You could build a deck around like playing the Necronomicon as often as you want. You could build a much more supporting build with cards like Time Warp and Counterspell on the purple side of things if you prefer. But this is just the list of cards that I considered for building this investigative tome-oriented Daisy deck.
Yeah, and as I said at the beginning too, there's no like one way to build a deck in all this. It's this is just our advice to you for the best way to start, so you can get the the fundamentals of deck building. Now let's go to this. Win Green's level 0 did have only 1 book and 2 horror, so those were the other 2 changes from that.
Yeah, so starting deck here. Starting deck here, pretty basic. Daisy deck, we got a big pile of tomes, we got a big pile of allies, we got some events, and we got some skills. Starting with our, looking at our, what's it called? The process we went through for this. What's our deck's purpose? We're going to get clues. We're going to play tomes. That's what Daisy do. Right? We're going to start off by looking at our economy cards. We have Crack the Case for resources. We have, as well as Dr. Milan Christopher, we've chosen. Because while some of our things are expensive, Dr. Milan Christopher is an absolute house and will carry us almost single-handedly resource-wise. Mm-hmm. And a single Crack the Case to get, like 3 to 5 resources off of investigation is pretty nice. For card-wise, we have Eureka is important to find our tomes and or allies that we need. Research Librarian kind of fits in there as well. Wit and Green also kind of fits in there as well, finding us the tomes that we want. And then Old Book of Lore is our other card draw thing.
Yeah.
Archaic List level 0 is also a resource card, actually. You wouldn't think it, but that's what it does at the level 0. It's like you have to discard some book symbols.
Yeah.
And then once you do, you get to discard it and gain 5 resources.
Yep.
Which is why there's no emergency cast or anything in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we're looking at our function. How are we going to get these clues, and how are we going to protect ourselves from the game? We got Inquiring Mind, protect us from the game. Ward of Protection, always good at that. Deny Existence, again, always good at ignoring what the game's doing. And then for getting our clues better, we have Dream Diary for those 2 books. We got Encyclopedia for that +2 to our book score during our turn. We've got Dr. Milan Christopher and Wit and Green both give us +1 book, even though we can only have 1 play at a time. We have 2 deductions because getting more clues is good. Eureka gives us book symbols. Inquiring Mind gives us book symbols. We have all kinds of book symbols in this deck. That part's not hard. Last, we got our fun and flavor things. Arcane Enlightenment kind of fits in here. We're playing a whole pile of tomes, and having that extra hand slot's pretty nice. Even in spite of having Daisy's tote bag, and sometimes, it makes the Necronomicon slightly less crippling as well. Dream Diary kind of fits in there, as does the Occult Lexicon. Occult Lexicon also kind of fits into the function of protecting yourself from the encounter deck if there's a random enemy or whatever that you could need to fight. Or, I guess it also fits into the card draw economy stuff, because cards pretty good.
Yeah.
We don't have too many sort of fun cards for this deck, because it doesn't really need them. A lot of them have a lot of crossover with other.
Yeah. And Old Book of Lore is
fun.
You get to grab a card every turn for free. That's fun.
Yeah. One thing you'll notice is that the Archaic list was not originally included in the list of cards that we were thinking of playing. And we only decided to play it and include it in the deck once we got to our upgraded deck, the sort of core of it, where we want to pick up the occasional clues and then really generate a big pile of tempo over the game by using our archaic glyphs with our Noptic manuscripts to just crush a couple locations over the space of a couple turns. Not even a couple turns, a couple actions. And then so that's where the archaic glyphs came from. In our upgrade deck, we have chosen to play a Miskatonic Archaeology funding, so we can get all of our allies into play at once. It's nice.
Yep.
We've also decided to include Abigail Foreman because she does more of Daisy. She's more Daisy.
Yep.
It's like Daisy's lost twin sister.
She is a tank. Even if I'm not entirely certain if she can hold the Necronomicon for you. But if she can.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I'm not actually certain about the rules on where the Necronomicon goes and where she can take books from. But even if she can't, she just holds one of your other books for you.
Yep.
Yep. The other upgrades we've made are the old Book of Lore, because we decided that was going to be or I decided that was going to be the sort of principal bread and butter book we're using
Yep.
to help us put together our Noptic Manuscripts Archaic Glyphs combo, as well as helping out our teammates. And then, yeah, that's it for the. We have the Noptic Manuscripts itself, which is just a good card.
Yeah. And Research Librarian, you're going to be using him to pick that up. Because it's a one of
the other change. Sorry.
Oh, just because it's a one
change,
of, yeah. You go.
Yeah. The other change that this list has made is we actually added in 2 copies of level 0 card, which you don't always want to do. But sometimes sometimes you got because after adding in all these cards, kind of realized that cutting the Archaic Glyphs level 0 took away some of the resource economy, as well as Abigail Foreman costs a bunch of money to play, Dr. Milan costs a bunch of money to play, Whitney Green costs a bunch of money to play, Noptic Manuscripts cost a bunch of money to play, and this deck could benefit from a couple copies of Burning the Midnight Oil, just like a little bit of boosting.
Yeah.
Resource-wise. We could have included that in the level 0 list, but the level 0 list really doesn't need it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, other than that, what got cut here?
The Inquiry Mines. As I said, they're an easy card to cut, especially when you get more powerful.
Yeah, the Inquiry Mines is a lot less important when you have... you still have Dream Diary to supplement your brain score.
Yeah.
And then, you don't need those extra 3 symbols, which are also pretty nice. Actually, I'm not sure if you use them for Archaic Glyphs, but you don't need them to crush things. But also, once you got Noptic Manuscripts and Archaic Glyphs going, you're going to have clues in your location a lot less often.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have them all.
Yeah.
Knowledge's Power also made an appearance here for extra uses of Noptic Manuscripts in the Book of Lore, which is nice.
Yeah.
Occult Lexicon got cut for consistency stuff, like Noptic Manuscripts is just a much more popular one of.
Yeah.
The Arcane Enlightenment got cut because we're not playing such a high density of books anymore. We're limited to a couple that we just want to have them play all the time. Yeah, I think that's about it. And then, of course, there's this is a 26th experience deck, I believe. And there's all kinds of bells and whistles you could add on after. You could upgrade your Dream Diaries, your Encyclopedias, you could upgrade your Wit and Greens, you could upgrade your
deductions,
you could upgrade
Border Protection,
your Knowledge's Powers.
Yeah.
You'll notice that even after hyping it up all the way, we didn't end up playing Practice Makes Perfect, and that's because the only practice skill that we decided to play here was Deduction, and one's just not enough. We wanted to focus a lot more on having a very solid asset engine in play.
Yes, yeah. So as you can see, just kind of from this, how we have the fundamental pyramid that we follow for this. We're going to break down 2 decks. We're going to lightning through them, go really quick. We're not going to go in as much detail here as we did for Daisy Walker. But first up, we got a fighter deck for Mark Harrigan. He likes punching. So what's the purpose of this deck? You got to fight monsters. What are the cards in our starting deck that help us get there? The weapons.
We got 45 automatic for shooting stuff.
Yeah.
We got Survival Knife to remind us to upgrade into a different Survival Knife. We got Enchanted Blade because it's a pretty solid level 0 weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Prepared for the Worst to find our weapons.
Yeah, and a Vicious Blow as well, which will also help you fight.
Yes.
Also got Guard Dogs to help us blink away odd hit point total in it.
Same with
that one actually pairs up really well.
Yeah.
It pairs really well with the level 0 Survival Knife.
What are our cards for our economy in our starting deck?
We got Act of Desperation for resources. You can throw your empty gun at something and get a bunch of money back.
Yep.
We got Clean Them Out because 2 resources to punch a rat or random cultist is pretty not difficult when you're Mark and you have 5 to 8 punch natively, depending on whether you have a beat cop and whether you're feeling like using Sophie in play.
And honestly,
or if you just go ahead.
With the Clean Them Out and the Burning the Midnight Oil, if you have a 5 printed Investigator, I think those cards are some top tier economy generation, because
they really are.
Yeah, they're when you have 3 or 4, they become a bit more. You have to work from them a bit. But when you have base 5, that's an easy include if you want to get some economy in your deck.
Yeah. Also got Emergency Cash because money good.
Money good.
Yep. And lastly, we have no snow cards to stack the draw cards. That's because Mark does it himself.
Yeah, yeah.
You
well,
just
we
take
got
damage and then you draw cards.
pretty much.
For function, there's Prepared for the Worst, which is going to help you find your weapons to be able to actually play them. He's also playing Practice Makes Perfect. What a naughty boy.
Actually, look at that. Like, leadership is practice, take the initiative is practice, the home front is practice, and vicious blow is practice.
Yeah.
Hitting home front off after practice makes perfect is like whole.
And then are there any cards here that we view as just fun for the deck?
The Inspiring Presence kind of fits into there. That one's like a little bit defense from the game, but also it just kind of lets us get extra use out of our Beat Cop and Guard Dog early, which is important because we want to be putting heart damage on them. So that way we aren't taking a heart damage and we can save that Mark's heart damage for using Sophie.
Yeah, yeah. And then quickly going through the upgrades, as Travis said, the one of Survival Knife was there to make sure we got a better Survival Knife. The Enchanted Blade was upgraded. Empty Vessel is strong and also fun. Upgraded B-Cop.
This list is like all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like the juicy. We call it thick, Mark. That's what Travis called it, and it's
like you roll into the 8 scenario and you're like, yeah, I'm coming to get you, Yeeg.
Yeah. Going off the upgraded like this, we're not going to break it down in the same, but you could just see like its cards are better than what they were in there, and this is kind of where we went with this one.
The only real big change here to note is a lot of the economy, or a couple of the economy cards got cut out because of the addition of Stick to the Plan, which lets you don't need to draw economy cards if you just always have them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you don't need to have the extra copies of Clean Them Out, and I guess you still have emergency cash, but Clean Them Out's the big one I think that we cut here, especially with the addition of Leadership, which gets you resources off Practice Makes Perfect as well. But just always having Prepared for the Worst, Ever Vigilant, and Active Desperation available to you is like pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and now we have one more. We did a fighter, we did a clue getter. Now let's look at a support, Sefina Rousseau. So Bryn, what are cards here that kind of help our purpose? Sefina she has a bit of a strange purpose. For our purpose here.
Yeah, we're trying to help our teammates do their thing, whether that's by grabbing a clue here and there so that Daisy can move on and do whatever she needs to do, or putting a little bit of damage onto an enemy to make it easier for a fighter to kill. We also have cards like the Scroll of Prophecies, which we can use it to draw cards for everybody. We've got the Crystallizer of Dreams. We can use that to commit all of our events to people's actions. Beyond that, that's like pretty much what we're doing to help other people.
Nice.
The Crystallizer is the big thing.
Yeah. Crystallizer is like the big part of it. So like I would say we'd want a hard mulligan for it, but we're not allowed to mulligan. So
just gotta hope.
Where are we getting our economy
we're looking
from
at like
in this deck?
So we've got Uncage the Soul, which lets us play a spell as though it costs 3 less, but it is also an event. A huge part of our card economy in this deck comes from the Crystallizer of Dreams itself, where it basically gives us more skill cards every time we play an event.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we have 25 events in the pile. We've got the obvious emergency cash and David Renfield to give us extra resources because we're going to need them to pay for all of our events.
Yeah.
The thing about the Uncage the Soul in this, you might be thinking there aren't that many spells in this. The Painted World is always a spell, and the point at the present moment, the way that the rules work, is that Uncage the Soul checks what the card is in your hand as to whether you can play it for 3 less. And so in your hand, the Painted World is always a spell. So no matter what you're copying, you can make it cost 3 less.
Cool.
Which is basically free for this deck.
Yeah, which is like pretty close to free.
I don't think there's anything that costs more than 2.
Small Favor and Intel Report can.
Oh, they can, yeah.
Yeah, they don't necessarily.
But still, like, you can't get the, like, you have to pay 2 additional. Does it increase the cost?
It alters, it's a reaction effect that alters the cost.
Okay, so you can get the discount on them if you put them up twice.
I believe so.
Bump them up once. Okay.
What is the function? Where's the function coming from to make sure we're doing what we're doing?
Well, our function comes mostly from our crystallizer dreams and our events. So all of our events, obviously they do things when we play them because otherwise we wouldn't be playing them. But we've got things like coup de grace, small favor, and sneak attack that we can use to poke some damage at enemies. So if there's an enemy with like a real big health total, like maybe 5, we can put an extra 2 or 1 onto it to make it a little easier for our fighter to clean up.
Yeah.
Even our spectral razor, if we're like looking at a non-epic enemy or a non-elite enemy, we can just poke them for 3.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at that. We can use
them for 3.
Yeah. Well, we can be like, would you like to see my new painting? It's me with knives for hand.
Then for the fun as well, Crystallizer itself is like, it's good and fun. But there's
That card's
also a
wild.
notable in this one, there's Delve Too Deep, which gives everybody more experience. And like kind of like as your support, you will be able to handle it best because you're prepared for ultimately anything and can help your teammates with ultimately anything. So it's very easy to play this card and get more experience to go to the upgraded side of this
I
deck.
put that one in the deck when Bryn wasn't looking.
Yeah. Also, this one, don't ever play your painted worlds to be Delve Too Deeps. They'll be painted worlds in the victory display, and they do not have a printed victory score.
That's good to know. Notable upgrades, we got Double Double, which is like fun and function and economy. It's like everything twice.
It is everything twice. We've got a suggestion which helps us in case no one is available to get a monster off of us. We just use that to get away from stuff. We got Lola Santiago, who lets us buy clues off the location, which also plays well with this Hot Streak upgrade that we have. Where if we can ever play Hot Streak with Double Double, we're just rolling in money for the rest of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Also painted
all on black, and they pay double to you.
Yeah, right.
Man, here's extra money because you got balls, and you're like, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Even just like painted world with Hot Streak, like, hey, look, I painted me winning the cards.
Yeah.
That's also a lot of money that we can use to buy clues with the Lola Santiago. Order protection we can use to protect our teammates with, and time warp we can use to protect anyone. I think we can protect anyone from failing their test or having something go bad during the investigation phase.
Yeah.
Not during the Mythos phase, but anyone's turn.
Yeah. Also worth noting these easy marks. They're basically like emergency cash, except that if we put them into the crystallizer, we can ever get them out again because you cannot get events out that do not have icons on them.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was our understanding deck building video. We hope it helped you watching at home how to better approach a deck when you want to build it. Because as I said at the beginning, it's very daunting when you first start. And even with this video, like breaking down all the daisy cards, it's daunting. But if you just look at things with that fundamental period, where is my purpose? Where is my economy? Where is my function? Where is my fun? You will be able to have a better understanding for how you want to approach building your deck. We have some more of these How to Win Arkham coming up in the future, but this one was pushed a bit forward in our plan because you requested it, the viewers. So if you have any requests that you want us to talk about in terms of the strategy and just kind of how to approach and how to win Arkham Horror, the card game, please let us know in the comments below. And also just talk to us in the comments. Travis and I both read them. We have a great time responding to you guys as well. So thanks for watching. Have a good one. And as always, GG's.